A deadly shooting in Lakeland claimed the lives of 4 people, including a 3-month-old baby boy. A 5th victim, an 11-year-old girl, is in the hospital recovering from several gunshot wounds.
We had a madman with a lot of guns that shot and killed innocent people.
According to Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd, the events leading up to the gunfire unfolded last night, so let's pinpoint this on a map for you. It happened on North Socrum Loop Road near Fulton Green Road. This is in unincorporated Lakeland. ABC Action News has been on top of this story since Good Morning Tampa Bay went on air, and we have live team coverage on what we're learning about the victims and the suspect. We start with McKenna King, who's breaking down the timeline of events. And McKenna, Sheriff Judd had to recount the story from several vantage points.
And Jasmine, it's still a very active scene out here as law enforcement works to gather evidence from what transpired last night and then again this morning. And Sheriff Grady Judd tells us this appears to be a completely random shooting. But he does tell us that the gunman showed up at this house behind us here. This was last night around 7:30, and he was claiming that God sent him here to speak with someone who lived in that house. The woman who answered the door sent him away and called police. And again, that was around 7:30 last night. Then this morning around 4:30, law enforcement arrived back at the same house after hearing reports of gunshots. They arrived and found a truck on fire and a man wearing camo who ran into the house. That's when law enforcement heard another round of gunshots, a woman screaming, and a baby whimpering. Deputies attempted to get inside the house, but were confronted by the suspect, who started exchanging gunfire with law enforcement. Fortunately, no deputies or officers were injured in that exchange, and law enforcement placed the gunman under arrest.
Now we're hailing into the house, and we find out there's an 11-year-old female victim who is calling back to us. She's significantly injured. And Sergeant Graham, once again another hero that was there that night, rushed into the house and rescued the 11-year-old who had multiple gunshot wounds.
That 11-year-old victim informed law enforcement there were 3 other dead bodies in the house. Sheriff Judd says they include a 40-year-old man, a 33-year-old woman, and a 3-month-old baby. They also found a 4th body in a separate home on the same property. That was a 62-year-old woman. Now, Sheriff Judd identified the gunman as 33-year-old Bryan Riley. He says he has virtually no criminal history, and he's a former veteran, serving around 7 years total in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Now, Sheriff Judd says they believe all of the victims in this case are related, but again, he does not believe there is any relationship between the gunman and the victims. We'll bring you any additional details as we get them. Reporting live in Lakeland, McKenna King, ABC Action News.
Thank you, McKenna. McKenna, difficult details to hear. In this afternoon's press conference, Sheriff Judd said putting out a motive this soon would just be what he calls conjecture or assumptions. The state attorney said we may never know, but here's what we do know about the suspect who's now in custody, Bryan Riley. I-Team investigator Kylie McGivern joins us live from his neighborhood miles away from the crime scene. She's in Brandon. Good evening to you, Kylie.
Hi, Jasmine. Yes, we got here just before the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office started blocking off access to this home. In fact, in the last few minutes, another unit just arrived here from Forensic Services. And this is all as investigators try to learn more about what led up to this crime. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd tells us Bryan Riley, 33 years old, described himself as a survivalist, telling deputies, "You know why I did this." Riley is a veteran, a Marine, we're told, who was deployed to Iraq in 2008 and in Afghanistan in 2009-2010. Now, the Polk County Sheriff's Office says Riley's girlfriend of 4 years told deputies he has PTSD and that she has seen him depressed but not violent. We're told that he worked providing security to a church in Orlando last week. And when he got back, the girlfriend shared he mentioned that God spoke to him and he can talk directly to God. Still, Sheriff Judd said Riley's girlfriend said that he was not violent. And it's important to note Riley, according to law enforcement, has virtually no criminal history. Sheriff Judd saying we're not dealing with a traditional criminal here. We spoke with a neighbor who says he heard about the shooting earlier today online, but had no way of knowing until now the suspect lives right across the street.
To tell me this kid is over there doing a shooting is, I can't believe it, really. I just can't believe it, you know? knowing his mother, and I've seen his father a couple of times. Very nice people.
And of course, we understand that neighbors, the public, family members have a lot of questions tonight. So we are working to learn more, and we'll bring you the latest from this investigation as it continues to move forward. Live in Brandon, Kylie McGivern, ABC Action News.
Exactly what he was doing. He was a rabid animal. They begged for their lives, and I killed them anyway.
Sheriff Grady Judd quoting a murder suspect there. Judd says Bryan Riley, a former Marine, showed no mercy, killing a Polk County family. One of the dead, a baby, shot in its mother's arms. Evil in the flesh. That's how Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd described Bryan Riley. The sheriff says Riley is responsible for killing 4 people this morning. You're watching 10 Tampa Bay This Weekend. I'm Miranda Parnell. This all happened in Lakeland just before 4:30 a.m. when a Polk County Sheriff's Lieutenant heard automatic gunfire rip through the early morning silence from a neighborhood just 2 miles away. Deputies say Riley also shot an 11-year-old girl, and to Riley, these people were total strangers. Riley has now been captured and arrested. According to Sheriff Judd, 33-year-old Riley was a Marine for 4 years before he was honorably discharged. He spent 3 years in the reserves and did tours in Iraq and Afghanistan as a sharpshooter. Investigators say Riley was a, quote, survivalist who was wearing body armor at the scene. They say his truck had first aid kits inside, and Riley has admitted to taking meth. And we've had crews on this story since the first alert of a SWAT presence in the neighborhood was sent to our newsroom. And our Bo Zimmer is at the Polk County Jail in Bartow, where Bryan Riley is being held. Bo, we also learned this morning that Riley had been to the house the night before around 7:30 because he had, quote, been sent by God.
Yeah, it's such a bizarre case, and no one expected a mass shooting on a Sunday morning in rural Polk County, but that's exactly what they got. And the sheriff says when this call came out, every available deputy and Lakeland police officer rushed to the scene. Sheriff Grady Judd and his detectives working to make sense of a bizarre overnight shooting spree in Lakeland.
We just know we had a madman with a lot of guns that shot and killed innocent people.
Detectives say 33-year-old Bryan Riley drove from his home in Brandon to a house in Lakeland, claiming he got a message from God that a woman named Amber was about to commit suicide. When the people who lived there said there was no Amber at the home, Riley eventually took off, only to return hours later armed with multiple guns.
Why there? This is not near his home. He has no relationship that we're aware of to any of them, and we can't answer that at this time.
When deputies arrived, they heard rapid gunfire and screaming coming from the home. Sheriff Judd says Riley opened fire on responding law enforcement, but eventually surrendered peacefully. Deputies entered the home to find a badly wounded 11-year-old girl and 4 other people shot and killed, including 40-year-old Justice Gleason, a 62-year-old grandmother, and a mother holding her young child.
When you see somebody so heartless, so calculated, that they will shoot a mother clinging to her 3-month-old baby and kill the baby and shoot the family dog.
The sheriff says these people were begging for their lives. Why did you shoot them? Riley had nothing to say as he was being transported to the Polk County Jail. Sheriff Judd calling this one of the worst cases he's seen in his law enforcement career.
And I've seen a lot of tragedy and a lot of sadness. And there's things you can't unsee. I will never be able to unsee that mother with that deceased infant in her arms as they both lay there dead. It is a horror of the utmost magnitude.
And that little girl, the sole survivor, had at least 7 gunshot wounds. According to the sheriff, she underwent surgery earlier today at Tampa General and is expected to recover. The sheriff says it is unbelievable that no officers or deputies were killed in this crossfire. Guys?
It is incredible, given what I saw at the scene, that no law enforcement officers were injured or killed, and it just highlights the dangers that our law enforcement officers are put themselves in harm's way every single day, every single night.
You heard there the Polk County State Attorney tonight grateful that none of the officers involved in the shootout were injured. Our team coverage continues with 10 Tampa Bay's Malik Rankin, who looks at the shock this attack is causing in the community.
It's just down this road where 4 people, including a baby, were shot to death. An 11-year-old girl airlifted to the hospital for emergency surgery, also after being shot. The Polk County Sheriff says the crime rate in this area at a 49-year low.
Crime's never been this low. You've never been as safe as you are right now. But when you get a nut job like this, statistical data makes no difference. I mean, this guy was wired up on dope, on meth.
The neighbors in this area tell me this never happens. Many woke up last night to the sounds of gunfire.
This is a horrific incident. Our community and many families are hurting this morning.
The assistant chief for Lakeland Police stepped up as the chief is currently quarantined with COVID-19.
We had several officers that helped the sheriff, deputies that were here.
Sheriff Judd said the suspect took the easy way out when he surrendered unarmed to law enforcement.
But when someone chooses to give up, we take them into custody peacefully. If he'd given us the opportunity, we'd have shot him up a lot, but he didn't, because he was a coward.
The home where this shooting took place is less than a mile from Lake Gibson High School and Lake Gibson Middle School. Now, to give an idea of just how uncommon crime is in this area, when I spoke with neighbors about this news, some were left completely speechless.
And this is still an active investigation with more information expected in the coming days. But Sheriff Judd does say there's another sad element to this case. He mentioned it briefly earlier, saying that the family's dog was also killed in this attack. The dog's name, DOG. Now, there's a connection to the sheriff's department here. In 2006, Polk K-9 officer Matt Williams and his partner, also named DOG, were shot and killed by a man who ran away from a traffic stop. Sheriff Judd says Riley's girlfriend of 4 years says Riley had PTSD and she'd seen him depressed but never violent. Now, these are some of the mental health resources available for current service members and veterans in the Tampa Bay area. There will also be counselors available this week where the little girl who was injured attends school.